That's good. We'll come see you. Thank
Yeah, that's good. Bill, you ready?
Yeah, I guess I'm doing your job.
Yeah, well, hey, that's why we came here. That's why we came here.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm sorry.
I was thinking about you say that. I can do mine from here, Steve. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Ayers. I'm the administrator of Hardy County Health Department. Commissioner Sheetram just asked me to welcome you guys to actually brag on our brand new health department that we opened in January. And it was funny. Mr. Pack said, "Is this the one we called all the crap about?" Because Governor Justice gave us $2 million. That's what got this project started. So anybody that wants a tour, I'll be around after. I'll be glad to give you a tour. Anything else you need, let me know, and have a good day. You're welcome.
Yeah, if anyone would like a tour, Bill would be glad to give anyone who would like a tour. We're very proud of this health department, so I'll just give some opening remarks. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Hardy County Commission, it's my pleasure to welcome each of you to today's Potomac Highlands Regional Leadership Meeting. Our region is stronger when we come together, sharing ideas, building partnerships, and finding practical solutions that help every county thrive. We're honored to have so many dedicated leaders, and we do thank you for coming today, here representing communities across the Highlands. Your commitment to collaboration ensures that our region's voice remains strong in Charleston and beyond. It's also a special privilege to welcome our keynote speaker, West Virginia State Treasurer Larry Pack. Treasurer Pack has been a champion for fiscal responsibility and innovation, helping to keep our state on sound financial footing and exploring new opportunities for economic growth. We look forward to hearing his insights on how West Virginia can continue to build a stable and prosperous future. Thank you for joining us today. Together, let's make this a productive meeting that strengthens our shared vision for the Potomac Highlands. So we're going to ask Larry to come up, Treasurer Pack to come up in just a few moments. We're going to recognize our public servants here, which that's what they are, right? Not politicians, public servants. We have our county clerk, Loretta Humberson, who's come and she's with us. We want to welcome her. We also have State Senator Darren Thorne in the back. He's come. We really appreciate all the work that he does in Charleston and specifically for this community. Every time I've ever reached out to Darren, he's been responsive to me, and he's not actually my state senator. He's not our regional state senator, but he's been very responsive, and we really appreciate that. Larry has agreed to take questions at the end, so if you have questions that you want to ask, please be sure to do that. This is the opportunity. This is the opportunity to do that. We do have challenges in our region. Okay, we have challenges. We have things that are in front of us that are obstacles to growth. We have to keep fighting every single day. We need our voice represented in Charleston. I can tell you that. Larry is someone who does believe in local control, okay? And it is very important that people govern themselves, okay? Local people do have answers to problems, and they have to be engaged in the process. That's what we're working for every day as county commissioners, which I'll also want to introduce a couple other public servants here. I want to thank Dutch Staggs for coming. He's Mineral County Commissioner, also Vice President of the County Commissioners Association of West Virginia, and we appreciate all the work that you do. Dutch. And also Commissioner from Mineral County, Roger Leatherman. We really appreciate you coming as well today. Thank you for being here. Mineral County does a great job. Hardy County works extremely closely with Mineral County, and we appreciate everything they do. But thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate it. And we're going to introduce and thank our great treasurer, Larry Pack, for coming today and turn it over to him.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thanks so much for just a wonderful place that we're here this morning. This in the health department. I was with Governor Justice for a couple of years after I retired from the private sector, and every once in a while we do good things and get really beat up, and this building was one of the good things that I did. So I'll call him on my way back or my way to Morgantown later. We've had a wonderful week. In the EP in the Potomac Highlands this week. We started out Monday in Morgantown and worked our way through Morgan County, Hampshire County, a little bit of Berkeley County, and to Hardy County. So it's been a blessing. It's been a really wonderful week. But it's been a really heavy week as well, whether it's 9/11 and reliving those times and those moments. And I think most of us in the room knew exactly where we were when we heard that, and that absolutely changed our country. And then to see Charlie Kirk's assassination, and I think they just announced to the person who shot him. That's pretty heavy stuff, and not just heavy on us old folks, but on our children who followed Charlie Kirk. I've got 6 children, and I got 25-year-olds, or almost 25. They're triplets, and they all know who he was, and they listen to him. I don't mean they agree with everything he said, but he was an inspiration to our young people. And we've all lived through assassinations, but never one we saw on video 5 minutes or 50 seconds later. So hug your kids and make sure you're talking to them about that and your grandkids, because it's heavy on their mind. And I think times like this, it really these are times when when you really know if your faith is real or not, because if it's not real, it's almost impossible to get through these times. And we've all went through tough times, and this is a tough time for our country, tough time for our young folks. So let's make sure that we lift our country up in prayer, our state up in prayer, definitely our young people up in prayer, because this is tough. And so I don't want to start with a downer, but it just like I said, it's heavy on my mind. I'm sure most of everybody else. But to flip it a little bit, we live in really, I think, the greatest state in the USA. I really believe that. And it's our way of life. It's our sense of community. Everybody in this room can call 25, 20 people to say, I need help, and they're going to come running. That's West Virginia. That's our way of life. You can't get that in the big cities. You can have all the jobs in the world, you can have all the whatever in the world, but you can't get 20 people who will come at a moment's notice to you. It's just phenomenal, the community we have. We have big families. Generally have big families, extended families, right? We consider our fourth cousins family, close family, right? And they're just down the road. Just absolutely amazing what we have here. Big church families. As I said earlier, I have 6 children. I've had 6 children, and 3 of them are the triplets. We couldn't have got through having a 14, 16, and 18-year-old in the house along with 3 newborns without a big church family and without a big family. So that's a blessing that we need to really be thankful for. I love how we, if you ask me where do you go to school, we say high school. We get in high school. I'm an East Bank pioneer. It's been closed for I don't know how many years, but that's how we do it. In other places, they tell you what college they went to if you ask them what school. Well, we're proud of our high schools. We're proud of our school we went to, whether it's still open or whether it's not. That's a West Virginia thing that we should be proud of. And that's why when people come in, and most people that come in, they're coming in because they want that sense of community. And we have a few of those others, and you can see them from 4 blocks away. But most people move in, they want what we have. They don't want to bring what they left. They want what we have, and we should really be proud of that. Safety, our public safety that we have. We can leave our doors open most all the time. Now, every once in a while something happens, but most of the time we can do that, right? That's just absolutely amazing. I know the housing prices are up, and we're kind of fussing about our utilities, but our cost of living is really low, right? And yeah, as Steve said, we still have challenges. There's things we need to work through, but we have so many things to be positive about. We have such a great state to sell. And so when you see people, when you talk about West Virginians, don't let them dwell on what we're 50th of. You know, we are the only state that's totally in Appalachia. There's a lot of good things come with that, but there's some negative things come with that. But we are moving forward and we're growing. And when I come out here, I get excited because I see the growth that's happening in Hardy County. I see why the state's putting so much money and the feds are putting so much money on quarter H, what it means for this area, how it opens up this area. It's just absolutely amazing. And so we learn that, but there's so many things moving in the right direction that we have a lot to be proud of. And yes, those folks that come out of DC, come out of Northern Virginia, they want what you have. And so be thankful for that as well. I do want to I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk a little bit about me and a little bit about the state, and then we do a Q&A, and hey, just fire away. This will be fun. So I grew up in the Coalfields part of Kanawha County, East Bank area. Anybody, Jerry West country for anybody that's an old basketball fan. My mom and dad graduated with Jerry, and that's how they refer to him as Jerry. But really hard scrabble, hard-working people. The area that I grew up in Kanawha County is really been devastated because the coal mines have shut down. We've lost those jobs. People have moved away. So basically, every school that I went to, including my college, is closed. They moved it back, but as far as us old West Virginia Tech folks, they closed it. That's not an uncommon story for Southern West Virginia. But we're resilient, we're going to keep going. But I think living in the coal fields, it really teaches you a lot about respect, about hard work, about discipline, and definitely about how important families and good church families are. And so just absolutely loved where I grew up. I'm still an East Banker, go up there all the time. Sad to see it shrink, but people have to go where the jobs are. And we don't have these big valleys and areas for farm. All we got is straight up and down mountains. So there's not a lot to do there if you other than hunt and fish. I went to West Virginia Tech, got an accounting degree. My family was in the sawmill business. I went to Tech after I realized there were not any easy jobs on the sawmill. So got an accounting degree, was in a hurry, got out in 3 years, passed CPA real early, got married early, had a whole bunch of kids, and practiced as CPA for about 20 years. Small local firm, just really representing small businesses all around West Virginia, but great training. My clients taught me so much, and they paid me to learn. So I really appreciate all of them. God opens windows, closes windows. It's always very entrepreneurial. Always kind of wanted to try to find something else to do. And at one point, I found myself in the healthcare business. I thought it was more like a real estate business. Honestly, when I got in, I didn't understand what I was getting into. But we did home health, we did hospice, we did rehab care, we did long-term care, we did all kinds of things to take care of the elderly. And really, after about 2 years, they stole my heart. And that's what I did for the next 20 plus years, and absolutely loved every minute of it up until COVID came. And again, we did it all over West Virginia, from the Eastern Panhandle to Monroe County, all the way to the tip of the northern Panhandle. We had about 3,000 or so coworkers. Love my coworkers, still talk to them. But after COVID, honestly, that was enough for me. And you don't want me to talk about Fauci because we'll be here all day, and my face will get red, and I'll get excited. But after COVID, it felt like it was time to. It was just time to do something else. Honestly, I think a lot of people in healthcare kind of got beat down during that time for lots of reasons. But everyone knows we can sit down and talk about it. And then when I did that, kind of spent a little time in the House of Delegates in that last year's private sector. Learned a lot about House of Delegates. If you ever get a chance to serve in the House of Delegates, and I think Darren will tell you, it's fantastic. You'll be happy, and then you'll be sad, and then you'll be angry, and then you'll be happy again, because it's 100 people from all around West Virginia, every background that you can think of. You try to put people in a box, but we're much more complex on this. So we'll be together on this issue, maybe not on the next issue. And it's really fascinating about how you learn so much, not just about yourself, but about people. My roommate was Brian Ward. So Brian and I hung out for 2 years. I felt very safe in my office, by the way, as long as Brian was in there. But him and I developed a really great friendship by hanging out for 2 years. But once we sold the company, I was told, hey, go find something to do. So you're really focused on, you won't worry about what someone does to your company. Look forward. Governor Justice, we knew each other fairly well. He asked me to come and do a 2-day job, and the 2-day job ended up being a six-day job. So I did that for about 2 years with him. Secretary of Revenue, Senior Advisor, EDA, and anything else him and Baby Dog would decide about. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you a little Jim Justice story. So I was still in the House of Delegates, and I get a call one day that Governor Justice wants you to come over and talk about a certain issue about 2 o'clock. And which is pretty unusual because during this session, I tried to stay away from him because the speaker didn't really like it if I was going directly to the governor. That's really kind of what he did. And so we stayed away from each other. We said he wanted to come over and talk about, and I have no idea what it was. So I got there and he said, hey, two more people are going to join us. Let's just sit here and talk a little bit. So we're talking about whatever we're talking about. And he says, are you hungry? Oh yeah, Governor, honestly, I am. I didn't get any lunch, didn't have much for breakfast, and it was pushing 2:30 to the end. He said, would you like something to eat? Yeah, but I don't, if it's not too much trouble, and if you're eating, I'll eat something. He said, what do you want? He said, I'm from Southern West Virginia. Whatever you put on the table, I'll eat it. I'll go for it. And so he says, do you like peanut butter sandwiches with white bread? And of course, what are you thinking? Well, I did when I was 6, right? but you don't say that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That sounds good. So, lady comes in and he says, I want 5 1/2 peanut butter sandwiches. I'm thinking, 4 people, 5 sandwiches. I guess he's hungry. And he's a big guy, right? He's 6'7", 6'8", broad as an NBA player, right? One of the few people that I stand beside, I feel really small. And so, okay, whatever. Jim, a few minutes later, 2 guys come in. I start my presentation, talking about what I'm rambling about. Then food comes in. He said, hold up, Larry. And Jim Justice fashion, he gives a prayer, right? Always blesses the food every time. And so after he does that, he hands me a sandwich, hands the 2 other people a sandwich. He serves it himself. And then he sits down and takes his sandwich, and then Baby Doll looks up at him, and she gets her sandwich. That's where the 5th one went. So I took a couple bites, put my sandwich down, start back on my presentation. A few minutes later, I look down. There's Baby Doll staring right at me. She had 2 sandwiches that day. So when he says she has the same dietary program as he does, he's not lying. But working with Governor Justice was a great learning experience. It was a little humbling, to be honest with you, just as being in the House was, because I'm no longer the CEO, right? I'm no longer the person leading 3,500. I've got my 2nd job for somebody now, so I'm working for Governor Justice, and I've only had 2 bosses in my life, so I've been really blessed. Probably means I don't follow orders well, but I've only had 2. So you have to kind of find your lane. You have to kind of figure out where and how you can serve and what you can do. And what I finally figured out is this was year 6.5 and an 8-year term. So we're not going to do a lot of 180-degree terms, right? The program's set. The things he focuses on are things he wants to focus on. We're not going to deviate. So we're going to focus on jobs. We're going to focus on roads, water and sewer, tourism, tax cuts. That's what we're going to focus on. It's not the other stuff's not unimportant, but that's where we're going to study. And that's where he stayed all the time. So I learned that lesson that you have to focus on, in business, you got to pick your 2 or 3 things, or whatever leadership is, you pick your 2 or 3 things, you stay there. Again, other things are not unimportant, but a leader can only focus on so many things. So we stayed right there. And he allowed me to work in all those different areas, and it seemed like mostly what I ended up working on was tax cuts and economic development. 2 things I really point to that I'm really, really proud about during that tenure. One is just the jobs. whether Century Metals in Berkeley County, Forum Energy, Nucor, TimeAt, these jobs all transform these areas. And they'll be there for decades and decades to come. And then all the spillover businesses that come with it is just absolutely phenomenal. So we really did try to work really, really hard to help business grow, help the folks that are here, and help new people come in, because we feel like that so many of our problems can be addressed, can be better if we have more jobs. Some things we can't fix, but we can make them better if we have jobs. Those jobs really provide so much for families, right? Self-worth for the person that has a job. They can raise their families with those jobs. Jobs pay taxes. We can build roads with that job. We can build buildings like this if we have jobs. But it really all surrounds around jobs. So that's the second thing. But to let you know that we didn't just focus on those top 5, is I was in the room and advocated when Governor Justice called the legislature in to shut down the abortion business in West Virginia. And that was very controversial. A lot of people didn't want to do that. So right after the Dobbs decision, we called the legislature in and encouraged them strongly to deal with this issue. And Darren will tell you, he was around. There were a number of people that did not want to deal with that issue. And if we hadn't moved so fast, we wouldn't have got the strongest law that we have. If we had waited another 6 months, it wouldn't have been that strong. So you can focus on economic issues, and you also can focus on social issues. You can do both. And that's what we really tried really, really hard to do. But it was a really fun run. I really enjoyed it. And at the same time, it was all in with Governor Justice. So when he went to D.C., he said, "You want to go to D.C.?" It was a pretty quick no, and I didn't put anything on the front end, but I could have, because that place is nuts. But now I'm doing the treasurer job, and the treasurer job is a lot of fun. Not only did I get to get travel the state and meet with people like you, see all the different and wonderful things that are going on, but also get to run the programs of the treasurer's office. And in addition to that, I get to weigh in on financial things. I get to weigh in on anything related to a dollar, because I'm the chief financial officer for the state. And so I really work hard to do that. The reason we travel the state is to learn more about different areas. And what we learn, and Steve talked a little bit about, is one size does not fit all. You know, we can't run counties. We can't run Hardy County like we run Monroe County, but yeah, that's what our rules say. You know, we say the same thing to the Board of Education. Berkeley County Board of Education needs to do everything the same way that the McDowell County Board of Education does. We know it doesn't work, right? We know it doesn't work in D.C., right? We fuss about it all the time in D.C. Why do you make us do things the way New York does it? Because it doesn't work for West Virginia. So we're really trying hard to get our legislature, to get everybody in Charleston to understand we need to get away from this lack of local control. The local folks know best. They know what they need in their areas. Now, there's some things that, yes, we have to kind of have a big picture, maybe a control over, but it should be very few things that we do that. And we've got to really work hard to do that and have more trust in our local elected leaders, because we've got phenomenal, it's not because you guys are in the room, gals are in the room, we've got phenomenal local leaders doing really good stuff. And so really working hard trying to push that and trying to change the narrative so that we don't have this top-down, one-size-fits-all state. We talk, you know, a lot of people talk about, in addition, they talk about certificate of needs. You hear that a lot. Some people know where it is, some don't. But basically, it's almost a way of giving franchises to various healthcare healthcare entities in the state of West Virginia. We can talk about why I got there and stuff, but we have that. Most states have that. But we have same rules for so many different businesses in West Virginia. You know, we do it for liquor, we do it for beer, we do it for marijuana people, we do it for car dealers. You can just go way on down the line of how we can control who can get into business. And that hurts small business. When it's hard to get into a business, it's a small business that pays for it. Big businesses, they got enough lawyers and lobbyists, they can get around whatever these rules are. But we've got too much of a top-down type of industry, too much of a type of regulation that we really need to start unloading that and get going, because the backbone of West Virginia is small business. We hit a new core every once in a while, but it's small business. It's the person that has 10 jobs, 15 jobs, 5 jobs. That's what West Virginia is. And we need to do everything we can to make it easier to start these businesses. And you guys get a front row seat on it, because you see things that are going on in Virginia, and you think, well, why can't we do that? Well, we've got some rule or law that says you can't do that. I like to pick on the ABC. It's not because I drink a lot, I don't, but we have 3 products that they control. We've got like 60-some different licenses. Only government can do that. I mean, only government can do that, right? There's nothing that the state of West Virginia can do that is as efficient as the private sector. Absolutely nothing. If you can identify, please correct me at some point. I also like to pick on the turnpike. It's a Southern West Virginia thing. You guys don't drive the turnpike. But if you want to see what the private sector would spend something like $10 million on, see what the state spends $60 million on, go to Beckley and look at that truck stop. That's what state government does. We're good at wasting money. If we would build this building, we could build it for at least 5 times as much. Same building, right? Local control, local decision making is only more efficient, it's cheaper. But I love being your treasurer. I love representing the state of West Virginia. It's been one of the blessings of my life. Again, thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me ramble a little bit. And we will beat Pitt tomorrow. So just mark it down. We're going to have a good 3 hours. If anybody's won the game, let me know before we get out of here. I'll tell you where our tailgate party is. We only do 1 a year. And tomorrow's the day. We'll have an absolute good tailgate as well. But again, it's a pleasure to be in Hardy County. I've learned a lot the last few days, and I look forward to the next trip. And I also look forward to any questions you may have. Thanks a lot. Don't be shy. Steve, you want to start us off? I know you have a question.
Yeah, sorry, so
I know you pretty well.
So the County Commissioners Association, one of our top 2 legislative priorities this year is going to be the public safety bill, which was ran last year. And it's called public safety, and it's because you don't want to say a tax, but it would allow basically home rule for counties. So 1%, municipalities already have this ability for 1% sales tax or amusement tax. And counties are asking for that. What is really being asked for, and I talked with you some yesterday, running EMS for a county, which counties under the Ambulance Authority Act of 1975 are responsible for ambulance service. But in a rural county, Hardy County, 14,000 people, it's doable. On the Moorfield side, it's fiscally doable. On the east side, not as easily done. And so we impose a fee, but what the County Commissioners Association would like to see is our legislature potentially, and tax is very hard. What we're looking for, though, is revenue sources because we have to invest in our county to entice people to come here. If we start telling them we don't have EMS and some of our community organizations are going under, that's not positive investment either, and we're looking for that. But if maybe perhaps you could provide your thoughts of whether we're presenting that right to the legislature, and it would be by referendum rather than county mandate. So it would be put before the voters. Voters would have a right to vote on this. So it wouldn't just be a county commission saying we're going to impose a 1% sales tax. It wouldn't be that. It would be voted on by the people. So that would represent local control. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of that whole issue related to county revenue sources, but also, what is the County Commission Association looking at this correctly, or are there other things for us to think about? Just get your thoughts on that.
All right. Well, back up a little bit. Part of our role when I worked for Governor Justice which was to chair the Home Rule Board for cities. We got more boards than we got since, so maybe Derek, you get rid of some of those boards too. But to me, that this from a municipal standpoint, I think where Home Rule has been in place for so many years. Really, what we ought to do now, what I'd ask the legislature to do now, is those things that we always approve. Just give the cities the ability to do it. Because kind of what happens now is the city's got to jump through a bunch of hoops. They got to have lawyers to jump through those hoops. And then they come and they petition us, right? And then we have lawyers at the tax department that looks at the revenue department that looks at those things to make sure they're okay. And eventually we get around and we have a meeting. And eventually when we have a meeting, then we just rubber stamp it. And so we don't need all that complexity. At the end of the day, if these are things the legislature thinks is okay with the cities doing, then let the cities make those decisions. And just get us out of it. Because we're going to say yes anyway. And all we're doing is create jobs, create paperwork, and just really slowing everything down. For some cities, it's not a big deal. But there's cities with, $500,000 budgets and they're paying $200, $300 for an attorney. It's a lot of money that we're creating a system. And then again, the other thing, remember, I like Darren, I'm glad you're in here. Every time we pass a regulation, you've hired a regulator. So it's just, I remember that, we gotta hire that. But so when it gets to the county part, I would be I'm gonna go two different ways. I am fine with the counties doing that as long as it goes before the people, because if the people don't approve it, then it doesn't pass. And if it's approved, they still don't like it, they have the ability to go see the commissioners the next election day. So I'm fine with it. But I'm also fine with it, I like it from the state government standpoint, because what happens is the cities, they don't have enough money to do things they need to do, then they're coming to us begging.
Yes.
Right? And so now all of a sudden you gotta come to dad to get your money back to do what you think is necessary in the county. I would much rather the counties have the money to make those decisions, to do things they need to do. When you see the revenue numbers come out each month, we really collect a lot more money than it's reported, because we've got all these income streams going all these different directions for lots of different things that we passed. And so you're not really seeing the real reflection of the money we're collecting, because we're sending this to EMS, and we're sending this to seniors, and we're sending this to veterans, and we're sending this to wherever else. I would much rather that the counties and the cities have the ability to raise revenue, but then at the same time cut off some of these other things that we're sending to the counties and cities, and let that money stay in the general fund, because we're really overcomplicating the way we do things. And one of the projects we have is trying to come up with a better way to reflect and report income that's coming in state each month, and be able to show the legislature where the money's going. Because we've done it for so long that really nobody has a good understanding of exactly where all this money's going and stuff. So we really want to work on that. So again, if you're prepared to stand in front of people and justify the reason for it, sorry with me. Quiet bunch.
I got a couple for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the way they explained it to us, Gainwell does the credentialing for the state for medical providers and pharmacies, and they connect through the Treasury Department when it comes to, setting up the direct deposit payments that are to be issued. So we recently had an issue where it was basically 6 months of denials, 6 months of delay on approved, it was approved pharmacy payments that led to a delay of about $400,000 for about 6 months for a pharmacy that we set up. It was all in the application process, and Gainwell was telling us that over 90% of the applications are denied from the Treasury Department, from the auditor,
Well, it depends. We have a very cumbersome, that's a nice word, system. So I'm not aware of it from the Treasurer's Department, but I'd love to run that to ground and be able to try to help smooth out that system.
my thought was if 90% of the applications are getting denied, we probably ought to change the application system.
Yes.
Probably not that.
We're really good in Charleston at making things way too complicated. And then what happens when you get big bureaucracies, it doesn't matter whether it's government or whatever it is, it's real easy to sit in one of those seats and say no every day. And you lose your sense of urgency. It's really kind of interesting. There's something that comes over people in Charleston. And so, and I had one of those interactions this morning with one of my team that basically said, someone reached out for help. I asked, would you please call this person? And the answer is, no, this person needs to call such and such. So no, please call this person. So please reach out to me, find Skylar. We'll talk next week and see if we can figure out what's going on. But a lot of our systems are very archaic. We just layer them on top of each other. And if the state really was a business, we'd be bankrupt.
Sir, send me an email. The mechanism of distributing the funds is through the Treasury, but the approval to send the funds is through the auditor. So we'll try to figure out what the process is there for.
So
Yeah, we'll help it out. We can help.
when it comes to credentialing in general, does the Treasury Department have anything to do with that? Is that all?
We are simply the mechanism of distribution.
Yeah, but we can help, and we can run the ground wherever the situation is, state government, and help you.
Yes, sir.
That's part of our role is not not only do the things that we're charged with doing, but also to help people through the system. In Governor Justice's office, I gave you all this stuff, other stuff I did, but I spent a lot of time just helping people get through the system. Everybody did. Whoever took the call, it was your job to help push you through the system. And a lot of times things are just sitting on somebody's desk. It's just amazing. And I used to be a provider, so I can feel your pain.
Yeah, the credentialing process is awful.
Cool. We're good?
I wouldn't think we are. I would think we'd have some more questions.
Well, Larry,
Yes, sir.
I'll ask, talked to you a couple months ago about transmission line, which is a hot topic right now, and of course we have the Marl going through, Hampshire, Mineral, Preston, and Mon, and Jefferson. There is a large group of citizens that are fighting this. All the counties have come on board, all the county commissions have come on board, wrote letters of opposition for these. There'll be another one come through shortly, the Valley Link, they'll be coming up through, I believe will be coming through Hardy here as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you, I think that I asked you before what your thought was on it, but I'll ask a little different question this time is, what benefit are these power lines going to be for our state as a whole? Because the only thing I'm seeing is that they're just going to bulldoze through people's property and take away land. They're going to take away acres and acres of real estate that the county, that the property tax level will drop down on for counties, as well as the values of property owners. And it's just, to me, it's intrusive on the property owners, on the land that people have worked hard all their life to own. So I'm being told that the state will benefit greatly from these power lines to plug in Virginia into our power plants. But can you elaborate on what the benefits of the state would be, if any?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. I might get a couple of ways on it. And I think I'll get your answer. I was able to go to planning a meeting in Hampshire County a couple of nights ago, and we talked about a lot of things, but the concerns about solar farms, concerned about windmills, concerned about data centers, concerned about transmission lines, and the common thread in all that is we want to perpetuate our way of life, right? We want choice on what happens in our county or on our property, right? That's a very American thing, right? We don't like that. I have an addiction I'll admit to this morning. My addiction is farms. So my family, we got 3 or 4 farms down in Monroe County and Brevard County, and one of them has a natural gas pipeline on it. Okay, it's been there since time, and so every once in a while we fuss with those guys because we don't think they respect our property when they come on it. So I understand the aversion, but I think there's almost 2 separate deals. And I'm gonna first go back to the bill, and Darren's gonna throw something at me, but the bill that we passed last spring, which was kind of known as I guess it's a data center bill, is that what we call it? Microgrid bill.
Yeah.
I think there are some really good things in there, but there were 2 things I thought was really bad. I think counties should be able to decide if they want a data center in their county or not. I absolutely do. And I'm very positive about that because I know that there are many counties that will accept it. Right? Many counties would love to have it, but that doesn't mean we need to put it, in every county. So I think local control. I think counties should have a say about that. Now, how you do it, you kind of work through that. But I think the other thing is, if it is going to come to the counties or the cities, they should get tax revenue. We've got 7 counties in the state that their tax base is so high they take no money out of the school funding formula. They're natural gas counties, right? And it's phenomenal because they don't come to Charleston knocking on the door for money, right? They can take care of their schools, they can take care of everything the county needs to do, and then some. They even got, a lot of them even have money set aside. It's phenomenal. Wouldn't it be great to have 10 of those counties? Or 11 of those counties? Because then we can knock those counties off. Now they don't have to come running and ask for money, right? And particularly when you have a county like a Berkeley County that has so many infrastructure needs, right? So I just think it's good that we make it easier for people to come in the state, but that doesn't mean they can go everywhere, right? So again, I think we have to get some local control back. The PSC is where I think the data stuff is, or the transmission lines. That's a little bit different animal. But one of my frustrations with the PSC is I can never tell that, to use the Governor Justice, Senator Justice deal, I can never tell they're out there fighting for Toby and Edith. I can just never tell what they say and what it helps. We all know our utility bills are skyrocketing, right? Now, this summer, for me and my family, we're very blessed. We could keep the air down on 72 or 73, wherever we wanted to, and not worry about the bill coming in next month. But my aunt and uncle, my wife's aunt and uncle, they couldn't. They were running their air on 80, right? They needed 72, 73, a lot more than we did. So I think the PSC needs to me, remember their charge, at least what I think their charge is, and that's the ratepayers. And so if someone wants to come in and put more power lines, how does it help the ratepayers in West Virginia? Right? Is this our time to negotiate to get something better for ratepayers? Or do we just say there's nothing we can do? Because again, from a property tax standpoint, it might help a little bit, but it doesn't move the needle. Right? So I think people are right about pushing back, and I can guarantee you, if that was going through Greenbrier County or Monroe County, I'd be at those meetings. Right, so I get it. So I think we need to keep pushing, keep fighting, and make sure that no matter what the agency is in Charleston, they need to remember or be reminded who they work for and why they're there. Does that help?
Yeah.
Good. Anyone else?
Now, I'll make a comment though, Mr. Pack.
Yes, sir.
Since you visited the Eastern Panhandle, I know in the health department world, one of the issues we have with the legislature is they don't understand that we are more advanced than what the Southern and even Charleston is now. We're growing faster. Our needs, we need more funding, especially in the health department world. During COVID, we were superheroes. We stepped up, we did, whether you agree or whether you disagree, we did the job and the task that was presented to us. But after that, it seems like we went back down to the bottom of the totem pole again. If we want to get out of being 50th in health issues in West Virginia, I think we're missing the boat, because the place we ought to start is the local health department. PIA costs. I think the legislature needs to look at giving every local health department enough money to pay for a full-time physician. I can see anybody that walks through my door. If they have health insurance, I'll bill the health insurance. If they don't have health insurance, they'll get free health care. I think that would help our PEIA costs. I think it would help improve the health in our communities. It's just an opinion.
See, the health departments all across our nation were really damaged by Dr. Fauci. And I go back to Dr. It really, you're carrying the baggage, not so much for the first part of what they did in COVID, but the other part.
Oh, I got death threats
Right.
during COVID. I
Well,
lost friends over COVID because I didn't do my job.
they lost their minds.
Yeah.
Okay, and people are still angry about it. You're on the ground, you're close. All our health departments, you guys are getting the brunt for it. I think it will tone down. I think that it will change over time. But there's a lot of people still very angry at what Fauci did, what they did to our elderly during that time. And again, you don't want to get too much on that, but I think you're absolutely right. But then your bigger question, or bigger point is, absolutely, when you have a growing area, it takes more resources for that growing area. To me, that goes back to local control. That goes back to give the counties and cities the flexibility to make decisions for themselves, to give them some of that funding that's coming to Charleston and let them decide what's best. The biggest water and sewer project that we did during the Justice Administration was Berkeley County. I don't remember how much money it was. It was 60 million, 70 million. I mean, it was huge. But we're convinced that we have to invest out in that area. And it's almost like if you put almost a business hat on, you have to invest where your company's growing, right? Well, we have to invest where our communities are growing, and that's this part of the state. So we got to continue to focus on But I do think we'll move further faster if if the local folks can make more of these decisions. Because again, every significant decision in West Virginia, the way we're set up, hits the governor's desk. And it doesn't matter whether you like this governor or that governor, it slows the process down, and we end up having people make decisions that can't know everything because our state's too big. So we need to get a lot of this stuff back down to either the region or the local levels. But thanks for what you do. I do think our county health departments they do an absolute valuable service. But like I say, right now, you just got a bad rep, and you don't deserve it.
Thank you.
Larry, so, you're a business guy, and for counties, what we want is to attract investment into the local area. And so you're traveling around the state, and I imagine as you're doing that, you shake your head sometimes at what local areas are doing in terms of there could be things that are done that attract investment. Sometimes that's not done, and you shake your head. I would think you would, because sometimes I do. Now, so in Hardy County right now, we're updating our comprehensive plan. And there are people here who are involved in that process, and of course the commission ultimately votes on the comprehensive plan. Something I've seen in our proposed comprehensive plan that I'm not in favor of, and I love preservation, I love environmental concerns, but I don't want to stifle innovation, okay? And for Hardy County, this is the main thing for me, okay? Yeah, and it is preserving rural culture, it is preserving agriculture. Those things are important, but we have to have investment, okay? We have to have infrastructure, and we have to have a certain amount of positive growth. Things that are proposed in Hardy County, recently, we had a windmill project proposed. It was very poorly cited, and right now there's no movement forward on this. We fought against that project hard, not because we don't like growth, but it was very poorly cited, and hopefully that was ultimately recognized. Currently, there's a solar project proposed, and counties, and I would say there are people in this room who would have very strong opinions related to that solar project, but there's a balance to these things. Counties need to fill revenue holes, okay? That needs to happen, and so you can't just dismiss all these projects out of hand. That is not smart policy. But what we want to be looking at, I think, there are a few key principles. In families, it's like this. In someone's personal life, there are principles that lead to success, and there are those that don't. So, what should a region and a county be focused on in terms of attracting investment in their area, in their county?
Thanks for calling me a business guy. Remember, somebody called me a politician yesterday. That's my hot button, but I handled it well. The first part of the question, I think, is what do businesses want? They want answers. They want to know what the rules of the game are. They want the rules to change, and they want quick answers. Because they're trying to grow whatever their business is. And so if it's a no, give them a no. Give them fast. Don't waste their time. That's the best thing I can tell you about what businesses want. And that's what they often don't get. But that's what they want. I think that part of the planning process is trying to figure out what does the community want, right? What's an absolute yes and what's an absolute no? If you can just define what the absolute no's are, that really defines, when people start looking at this an absolute no, they'll go somewhere else. But and I think those absolute no's probably need to be narrow, but it needs to be what the county wants. And then you got to figure out how to get there to be able to enforce it. And those are tough decisions. The solar thing, so if someone wants to come and put solar on one of my farms, that's probably economically might be a good deal for me, but it's probably not economically a good deal for my neighbor. How do you balance that? And again, I think every community, every county needs to make their own decisions on that. And we all have opinions on what we think about it. But it doesn't really matter what my opinion is for Hardy County. It's really what the citizens of Hardy County want. So I really encourage you to really get into the planning process and try to figure out, what's absolute no's. what's yes, but only in this area, and define that, and then make sure you got the rules and regs to delineate that so that businesses can figure it out, and so you can get, basically have the type of community that you want. Steve's right, we have to have jobs, and we have to have somebody that's paying taxes, right? So we love our farms, but we know farms don't pay very much in taxes, right? And very thankful to the folks that put that in place back in the 1920s. But we have to have enough of the other folks that are paying taxes so we can provide the services that we need. And so what does all that look like? I spent a lot of time in Monroe County, and if you run for assessor there, or you run for county clerk or circuit clerk, you ran for a job. You didn't run for a position, because there's not enough people in the courthouse to supervise. You're the person, but it's almost all farms or agriculture, and there's very low tax base. They seem to like it that way, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But those are local decisions that need to be made locally. Well, I'd like to end with something that I saw this morning early. This is a tweet that Charlie Kirk sent out on June 17th of this year. And he says, he's giving us all advice. When things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read some scripture, spend time with family and friends, and remember, internet fury often is not real life. Thanks so much for the opportunity. You guys are a blessing. Have a great day, and let's beat Pitt.
Very great. Yeah, it's over. So thank you guys for coming. Great job. And yes, let's beat Pitt. But better showing this week than last. Let's have a better showing this week than last.
And email me if you need me, okay?
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. I've been doing 26 years.